I am just furious. It's 9:20 in the morning on Monday.
Whoever is doing whatever can go straight to hell.
Call me back now or see me in face, and trust me, you won't want that.
Welcome to the HOA Show. I am your host, Jason Hurst, and we've got a great show today, a fun topic that we're going to be talking about, and we got a full house as well. Brian, Kelsey, Mary, you're all here. How's it going? How are we doing, guys?
Fantastic. Great.
Yeah, Brian?
It's a good day.
Yeah? Why?
Because we're talking about towing.
Oh, yes, towing.
What other issues can we talk about in HOA world that incite so much emotion?
Excitement.
Nah,
Excitement.
I can't think of another one. Dog poop comes close, but it's pretty much towing all the way.
Very
hands
passionate
down.
subject.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well myself, except I was out practicing baseball with my son today, and he hits a liner right off my leg, and so now I have this big old welt the size of a baseball sitting on my leg. So that's a pretty fantastic way to start my day. So
It's one of those injuries that you just can't forget about because you feel it all the time.
Yeah. Every time I walk, any step I take, but whatever. Anyway, enough about me. Let's should we launch into our towing?
Let's do it.
Okay, sweet. Our guest on the show today, Scott from Beehive Towing, is joining us here, and we're gonna pepper you with a ton of questions.
Okay.
We'll try to make it not too harsh on you.
Okay.
We'll try
great.
not to shine the light bulb in your eye. And
I'm ready.
I'm
ready.
He's ready to go. All right. Who wants to launch in?
I got it.
All right, go for it, Brian.
Scott, just from the beginning, why towing? How'd you get into towing? Like this business? How'd you get it started and why?
Man, so it was kind of a fluke of how it all happened. So I grew up, I worked in a tire shop, and then from there I went into a mechanic shop. And the tow guys would bring cars in and out, the shop. And I always thought, man, that'd be the perfect job, drive around, air conditioned or heater, whichever, and it wouldn't be that hard. You make money every day. I could go to the bank and make a deposit, and at the time I had a truck payment, and I was going through the Auto Trader one day and seen a tow truck for sale. And it was for the same amount of money that I paid for my pickup. And I was like, man, well, I could sell my truck and buy a tow truck, have the same payment, only this would make me money. And I was young. I was 21. I lived at home. And so I went in feet first, I went out and bought my first wrecker. And that's where it all started. And the towing, like parking enforcement, all happened as an accident along the way. I'd had my business for about 8 years before we started doing parking enforcement. And it was a apartment complex called me one day and said, hey, we have some cars stacked up over here. We want you to come tow them. And I was like, okay, I guess I could do that, And so we went over and hooked them, and I made more money that day than I never made before. That was like my record day. And I said, man, this is where the money is. And so that's kind of how it all started.
And this was 2001, you said?
2003 is when I started.
Nice.
Yep. So
Before that day at the apartment complex, he was just driving around towing random cars and just holding them hostage for ransom, right? Yeah.
Well, actually, it was interesting because I didn't know anything about towing, and I didn't know anybody in towing, and so I had nobody to I didn't know how to use the truck when I first bought it. And so it was, all just learn as you go. And so it was very challenging. And at first I was just towing cars that broke down from point A to point B, and there's no money in that. I lost my house, I lost my cars, and I almost lost my one tow truck that I had. But the bank reworked my loan so that I could keep it, and that's about when we started gaining traction. That's when I got on parking enforcement. It was about that time. So that and doing police work, like accidents and all that kind of stuff. And so that was kind of how it all started.
That's a great story.
So,
how many trucks do you have now and drivers?
So we have, have 6 tow trucks. We have 5 drivers. We actually just barely bought another tow company, and so they have 6 trucks and 7 drivers. So we got quite a bit going on right now.
That's great.
A lot of big headache.
So your Google reviews are at like 5+, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. Everybody loves towing companies. Come on, Brian. You know that. Everybody loves towing
I
companies.
kind of gave up on the Google review thing. It's funny because you can see. It's funny because I actually talked to a guy yesterday about this because he talked to someone that he knew and he'd had his car towed, and he's like, shows me this text that he's got about my company and what he thought about us and all this, and he's like, don't you ever think about social media? I'm like, yeah, but it's like being a tax collector trying to have good Google reviews, like it's not going to happen. And so we just kind of take the good with the bad, and you go through them and looking at the reviews, you can see who had their car impounded and who was broke down on the side of the road, because everyone that's broke down on the side of the road, we're coming in to save the day. And so we get obviously good review.
Sure, right.
And then the guy that had his car towed, it's a 1-star and we're thieves and crooks and, we should die. And so it's interesting to see that. So
if you get mentioned in the same breath with the IRS, that's you never want to go down that road.
Exactly.
No,
that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah. We're talking with Scott from Beehive Towing. Scott, thanks so much for sponsoring the show and being willing to come on with us. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about Beehive Towing?
If you ever need any towing service, we offer private impounds. Any HOAs out there need parking enforcement, please give us a call. We'll set you up, see if we can provide you a good service or a better service than what you're getting. Also, any towing at all that you would need. If you've ever done business with us before in any way, mention that, and we'll offer you a frequent flyer discount. And we're Salt Lake and Utah County. We're 24/7. We have guys day and night out and about. We can help you out in any way.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Here's a question for you. What advice would you give people about parking enforcement if they go into a neighborhood? What kind of advice would you give them how to avoid being towed?
For me, like personally, I've had my vehicle towed, and I've been on the receiving end of that, so I get it. I understand.
I was going to ask, when you lost your cars,
yeah.
Did you have to tow your own car back to the bank?
No, actually, no. They came right to the house. Yeah. And so I said, here's the keys. Here you go. Have a good day.
I just waiting for you to say, hey, I can tow that back to you if you want. I got that covered.
For a small fee.
I probably could have. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And so, no, my advice would be probably just know your surrounding. Most communities, it seems these days, and there's so many popping up everywhere, that there's some source of parking enforcement that goes on. And I think that a lot of people, at least that I've talked to, they're like, I'm just going to hurry and park here. I'm only going to be 5 minutes. There's no chance that I could get caught. And then when that happens, then it's like, we're the bad guy. I was only there 5 minutes.
How often do you get that? I was only there for 5 minutes, 30 seconds, just some minimal amount of time.
9.5 times out of 10.
Really? It's that often.
Yeah. And man, I could write a book about the excuses I've heard for why we should give a deal, or why they was parked there, or whatever. It's crazy the things that we've heard. Like, we've caught 3 people having an affair through towing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Whoa. Wait a minute now.
There's more to that story. We need to hear this.
I was going to say, we can't just let it lie there.
Crazy stuff. Yeah, that's happened. Did you want me to elaborate on that?
Please.
Okay.
I know one of those.
Yeah, they all happened, I believe, in your communities.
It's always Brian. It's always Brian.
What does that say about your communities, Brian?
No comment.
Okay.
Yeah. So one time it was interesting. We was out in this community, and this guy, he's parked in front of a red curb, right? And we're called out there. We roll out there. We boot his truck because of where it's at. Like, they could probably see us where it's at. So we boot his truck. He comes out. we're talking story to him, and he's like, look, man, I'm broke. I don't have $1, and you could tell by this gentleman's pickup that he probably didn't have much money because it was pretty dilapidated, and there's this gal that's with him, and she's holding a kid or doing something, and she's like going to bat for this guy, and we just assumed that's her husband, and I told the guy, I says, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to take this boot off your truck, but you have to send me a Dickies BBQ, card, gift card.
Got it.
$20, which the boot at the time was like $75 or $80. And he's like, oh, all right on, man. I said, I gave him all my info. Send me this card, right? Well, sure enough, he never sent the card, right?
Of course.
Well, and then we're called back out there again a while later, maybe a month later, and it's a vehicle that is not licensed. And it's like a Suburban or something. And so we impound it, and we get it to the yard. Well, I get a call from this guy claiming to be this lady's husband, and he's just like giving me an earful, and I'm like, look, dude, you're the whatever. You're the prick, You were supposed to send me a gift card and you never did. And he's like, what are you talking about? I says, well, we was out there a month ago and we booted your truck. No, you didn't. I was out of town. Well, your wife was with that.
Oh, no.
Here we go. What was the truck? And we explained to him what this truck looked like. And he's like, oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. And just goes off, right?
Oh, man.
Well, this lady comes down to pay for her vehicle to get out of the tow yard. And she is just bawling her eyes out. And you ruined my life. I says, I didn't ruin anyone's life. You ruined your own life. Come on. I says, so you never know, and so that's how the first one come down the pipe.
That's always fun.
And then
that's a nice 1-star review right there.
Yeah.
Ruined my life. 1 star.
Yes. Yep. And so that one was crazy. And then the other one was we towed a vehicle out of one of the HOAs. And this guy calls me, and he's like, yeah, why'd you tow my wife's car out in front of our house? And I was like, well, what vehicle is it? And so we have a software program we use. We can go in and look at photos and everything else of the vehicle. And I'm like, it was in a visitor stall. And he's like, a visitor stall? Like, what does that mean? I said, it was parked in a visitor stall. Well, our street doesn't have a visitor stall. And I'm like, well, where do you live? He's like, I live in West Jordan. I was like, no, this vehicle was towed out of Lehigh, out of an apartment complex. Oh, that, and the husband goes crazy because his wife was there visiting whoever. And, whatever. And he kind of had some insight when we told him where it was at, what was going on. And so that was another bad one,
Wow.
I ruined this lady's life again. I'm like, man, I need to quit doing that.
Geez, Scott, you're the life ruiner, man. What's going on?
Totally.
Homewrecker.
It's just crazy.
So when these people come to pick up their cars, I'm sure you have to deal with like a lot of confrontations, like both out in the field and in your office. Like, are there like just crazy ones that you absolutely remember will never forget that you've had to deal with?
Oh, absolutely. We've had people. I had one instance where a guy, he's like, I forgot my wallet. It's in the car, and we have the car behind the gate, right? And so we open the gate and we let him go in, and he gets in his car, and it was like a switch turned off in his head where you could see it in his eyes. And my brother's standing in front of him with the invoice book, like, hey, get your stuff. And all of a sudden this kid just slams his keys in the ignition, starts it, hammers down, runs my brother over, hits him. He flies off. The guy turns, hits our gate at like 40 miles an hour, blows it out into the street, takes off, and we're like, holy cow, that's like stuff you see in a movie, you know? Well, and then the kid got scared that he'd hurt somebody, and so he called back, and we just played it off like it wasn't nothing, you know, like, just come on back. You just need to sign the invoice, you know, everything's cool. He's like, okay. And, of course, we have the police department sitting around the corner, and he pulls in. Man, they swarm this guy. He went to prison.
Wow.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And he'd never been in trouble in his life before. And so it was like a pretty big deal.
Well, he could have killed your brother.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. They got him with assault with a deadly weapon. That's what it was. And then like a bunch of other charges. But I felt bad because he's a young kid. He's probably only 20 or 21 years old and never been in trouble, had a wife and a baby, and he was just kind of at his wit's end, didn't have any money to pay for the tow, and made it a lot worse, you know. But his dad came down the next day, wrote us a pretty hefty check for the impound and our gate and a bunch of stuff. And then we told them if they did that, we wouldn't like press charges or do anything. So we dropped all our charges, but the state had picked it up.
Oh, yeah.
And so they were SOL at that point anyway.
Right.
So, but yeah, we do get confrontation all the time. I feel like I should be like a professional arguer, debater. There you go. You know, it's crazy. And we've had to escort people out of our office numerous times. We have the police down there 7 out of 10 times. We get threats all the time. It's pretty like exciting, really. Never a dull moment, you know. And you meet, like, when you meet someone new and they find out that you own a tow company, like, they'll, tell me some stories, you know, about this, that. I'm like, man, how much time do you have? We can sit here all night, you know.
I very rarely have boring stories to tell.
They're usually pretty exciting, you know, and a lot of that is on the parking enforcement side, but the car wreck side too. You know, you see stuff that you don't ever want to see. And so just all aspects of towing is pretty exciting to most people, really.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
What would you say is the funniest excuse you've heard and the best that kind of pulls at your heartstrings that might help us out a little bit if we get in trouble?
Mary's planning for the
Let's see
future.
here.
She's like, okay, I'm going to write this down if my car ever gets towed. What do I say?
So funniest, oh man, I gotta dig back into the archive here. I can't think of one in particular necessarily, but I've heard, like, you know, we towed out of a parking lot one time over by a business, and they're like, oh, my wife was in labor. We had to park there. Lifelight had to land here to take her, and that's why our car's there. And
Wow, that's a big one.
okay. All right. I don't know what to say to that, you know, or we've heard tons about, like, you know, my grandma died, or, you know, just whatever you could ever imagine for any type of excuse. You know, my car broke down, it's stuck here, I lost the keys, just whatever. Yeah.
And realistically, like you said, it's just know where you are, know what the rules are.
Right.
And even for 5 minutes, you shouldn't do it just because you're probably going to get caught.
Yeah. Don't take the risk.
Yeah.
You know, if you have to walk an extra 100 yards, then do it, because we're talking a couple $100 is at stake, you know. And, you know, that's a good weekend out, or, you know, whatever. So don't take risk. And of course, being nice to the tow guy if you do get caught always helps. Always helps.
That is something I think we've said on this podcast multiple times. Please be nice to your property managers. Please be nice to your towers. Please be nice to any contractors you do work with. I promise it will end up more favorable for you in the end.
Yes.
So
Just
going
be a nice person all
going
the way around.
super alpha aggressive doesn't work with towers, does it?
Oh, totally not. It's like
You're used to this.
because like secretly when we get a guy that comes down and he's out of line, then we kind of get some kind of satisfaction almost taking his money.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what? Because we hit him where it hurts, and that's in the pocketbook.
Yes.
But it's the guy that comes in that's super kind and has some accountability for what happened, and it's that guy you're like, I really hate this. I really don't like this at all. And so be nice to your tower.
There you go.
At the end of the day, you're just people and you have families to go home to, and it's a
Right.
job that
Just
you're
trying to
doing.
do your job.
It's
And it's a necessary service.
they have that show on TV called Dirty Jobs.
Yes.
It's a dirty job. It is. It really is.
But
But
somebody's got to do
but
it.
someone has to do
Yeah.
it, and it's a necessary evil almost. You know, my thought is if they don't like towing, change the laws where the city lets you park on the street or wherever, you know. Change the law, then we don't do towing. Then there's no problem. But if you can't change the law, then there's, you know, we all have to abide by that. So if I ain't doing it, it's going to be somebody else doing it. So it may as well be me doing it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And imagine what the neighborhoods and streets would look like if there were no laws or regulations. I mean,
Yeah.
there'd be broken down cars everywhere, you know, just sitting because it's expensive to remove a broken down car.
Right. Yeah, it'd be total chaos
Yeah,
everywhere
it
we
would
went.
be a mess, and we
Yeah.
don't want to live like that.
So, yep.
Did you verify the life flight story?
No.
Oh,
It was so far out there. I was like, whatever. Okay. But guess what? You still owe me this money. Not trying to be insensitive.
So that one
no.
doesn't work. That
Yeah.
excuse does
that
not
one
work.
doesn't.
Yeah.
That one doesn't get the
That
job
one
done.
doesn't get the
Okay.
job done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll remember that for
Wife
next
and
time.
life flight. Cross that one off.
Yeah.
Okay. What do we got
Yeah.
next?
So how often, like when you're actually out towing, do you have to deal with like confrontations with people just saying, just drop it, it's fine, it's not that big of a deal, I'm here now, I'll move it right now, or they just pull out right when you're leaving? Like if you've had people just walk out of their house and they see their car being driven away, like how often does that happen?
So that happens quite often, really. I actually have kind of a funny story about that.
Oh, we don't
And-
like funny stories here.
Yeah.
So keep that to yourself.
So I was doing the towing, okay? And I'm in this community and we'd been called up there. It wasn't like a patrol or anything. And I load this car and it's with a flatbed. So like I'm there for 10 minutes easy, maybe even 15 by the time I get this thing loaded. And right as I'm pulling away, I hear a scream, you know, like, hey, that's my car, you know? And I'm like,
Do you just step on it at
I'm,
that point?
I'm going to pretend that I didn't hear anything.
Fingers in the
And
ears.
so-
La 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 la
yeah.
la la la.
And so I start driving down the road, and I'm probably only doing 10 miles an hour, maybe, but this guy is chasing me down the road.
my
Like
gosh.
he's full on Forrest Gump, head down, coming after me, and I can see him coming, and I get the giggles driving down the road. And so I'm cruising just enough. I'm going just fast enough that he can't quite catch me. And I'm sitting there, you know, and it just was hilarious. He didn't have any shoes on, you know, and he's just, wait, you know, and he's off to the races. And it reminded me of like with your buddies, you know, you're out rabbit hunting or whatever. One has to pee and gets out. When he comes back, you start driving and making him chase you. Well, that's the same situation right here. And at any rate, there's a stop sign at the end of the community, and this guy just done like a 500-yard dash. And I pull up to the stop sign. Well, he jumps on the bed, like not the bed, but there's like a step right there at like the passenger side door. And he jumps on that, and I had the window down, and I kind of was giggling. Well, when he looked in at me and he kind of saw that I was kind of giggling, he started laughing too. Like, man, like, what just happened, you know? And I'm like, I don't know, but I got a kick out of it. I said, follow me around the corner. I'll set your car down. Oh, really? All right, cool.
So chasing him down may work.
Maybe.
May work, depending on how funny it is.
Yes, if it's in good spirit, absolutely.
If you can provide comedy relief for your tow truck driver, maybe he'll drop your car. All right.
Totally.
$75 worth of humor.
Yeah,
for the drop fee.
It's perfect. Yep. And so, there's most people are pretty decent about stuff, but it's a handful.
Before we get to that, we want to talk about our sponsor of the show, Beehive Towing, Salt Lake and Utah County's #1 towing service provider for over 18 years. Affordable rates, 24-hour towing. Their services include auto wreck services, roadside assistance, heavy-duty towing, private property towing. You can check them out at beehivetowingco.com.
So along the lines of funny stories, have you ever towed a vehicle that you didn't know what was inside of it and you just took off with it, and come to find out maybe you shouldn't have towed that vehicle, or there was something crazy inside that someone was scared about losing?
I got a feeling there's a story behind this from Brian, but let's
got
hear
one.
from Scott first. Yeah.
Cue it up.
So there was one time a vehicle that we towed, and when we got back to the tow yard, I realized that it was probably someone pretty important's car, because it had like cop lights up in the top right-hand corner of the windshield, and I could see guns and all kinds of stuff in there.
Boy.
And I was like, oh, crap. But he was parked where he shouldn't be, And
He just showed the car of the CIA director right there.
yeah, well, that's almost what it was.
Oh.
Yeah, the guy called me the next day, and he was a Secret Service for the President of the United States.
Oh, boy.
Whoa.
I said, you owe me lunch, definitely. All right, I'm on my way. So I went to lunch with him instead.
Oh, wow.
So it was a good situation. He was a cool guy.
Yeah.
And
Did he have some good stories for you?
I don't know. He didn't elaborate on much.
Probably can't.
And so it was, we went to lunch. At the time that Dickies BBQ was here, that was my favorite place.
I was going to
I
say, you
know
know,
it is.
Dickies.
We got to go to Dickies. We went to Dickies, and he was a cool guy, and it was a positive experience.
That's cool.
I got a call a couple years ago, homeowner, multiple calls from her husband. I think her mother-in-law was there at the time. They were just parked out in front of their unit for 30 seconds. That's it. Went inside, parked the car, kind of blocked 2 cars behind it, parked, went inside. Tow company came up to hook the car. Hooks the car, and it was a minivan. All the windows were tinted out. Hook the minivan because they were blocking 2 cars, start taking off down the road. Homeowner frantically starts calling me. My baby is in the back of that minivan.
Oh, no.
That just got towed.
Oh, no.
my God.
So she left the kid in the car, went inside, tow truck driver's pulling it out. They start calling us, and I'm like, call the police. Someone took your car and your kid in one hook.
Oh, I think that's every tow guy's nightmare.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you guys?
So we've been accused of that.
Yeah.
It's never happened. Like, there was one time where there was a car parked, like, in this HOA. It's on the street, right? And my guy backs up to it, picks up the front end of this car, and then he gets out and starts doing, like, inventory, and he can see that there's a kid in the car. And at that time, the parents and everyone had come out, and they make, like, this huge scene of, you're trying to tow my car, and my kid's in there. And I'm like, why the hell are you leaving your kid in your car when you're not in there? Like, who's the idiot here? And so there's been that. And then we had another one where they basically tried to say the same thing, but my guys wear full surveillance on them. They wear GoPros, like, we can verify everything. And this guy, he calls the police because we're trying to tow his car, and his baby was in the car. Well, we have on video him coming out with the baby carrier while the vehicle's already hooked up, ready to be towed, and he sets the baby inside the car. and then tells the cops, they're trying to tow my car with my kid in it. And the police wouldn't even watch our video.
Wow.
We were automatically guilty, right? Not that we'd done anything wrong.
No.
But they wouldn't even give us the benefit of the doubt. And so that was a problem that I had. I was like, man, watch the video. I got it right here. It shows everything. Takes all the argument out of whatever
Right.
happened, you know, and so that's the thing with us is we're always guilty until we can prove ourselves innocent. And so
Which
we're
I'm
getting
sure you have to do frequently.
yes, which is why we have surveillance on us,
really
surveillance in the
smart.
trucks.
Yeah.
You know, the software programs. We have photos of
I hadn't thought about
everything,
that.
and so it takes all the guesswork out of everything that we do.
But that's a huge expense that you have to
It is.
handle. So
It
I
is.
mean,
Cheaper than a lawsuit, though.
totally.
Yes.
But
Definitely
thinking
cheaper
about
than a lawsuit.
like
Yeah.
the cost of getting your car towed, people
Yeah.
are like, $75 to well, there's a lot of stuff that goes into a towing business that we don't all consider
Yeah.
and think about.
There
Have you
is.
always had surveillance like from the beginning, or like at what point did you decide like we needed to
So
put this in?
it was so my brother was working for me, and he almost went to jail, and it was because there was a situation where he booted this vehicle. Well, there's 4 people that come out that own this vehicle, right? Well, all 4 of these people that own the vehicle say, hey, he pushed us all out of the way to boot this car. And so when the cop gets there, it's 4 testimonies to 1. He's going to jail. And if it wasn't for one cop was like, wait, this is a totally biased, like, opinions here.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
he's booted their car. Of course they're going to, like, throw him to the wolves.
Right.
And it was at that point where we're like, you know what, we need full surveillance to video everything. Otherwise, we're going to get accused of everything, and we may not be as lucky as we were that night. And so that's the reason why. That's where it all started. Yeah.
Body cameras for cops and tow truck drivers.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
So I'm sure you've got a pretty good highlight reel then of all these
Oh, boy.
videos.
We have a really good video of where my driver maced a whole family. And it was bad.
Was this the one where the lady was yelling and mid-yell he hits her right in the mouth?
Yes, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah, she had the loud mouth, and as she's screaming, a stream of pepper spray went right in her mouth.
How many
Yep.
how many defense mechanisms like this do you have in each of your tow trucks?
Actually, that's it. Like, a lot of my drivers, they're all like concealed carry, guys, and I'm like, no, we're not carrying guns because nobody's life is worth that. If it gets to that point, you drop the car, you get gone,
Right.
And so, but we do have some pepper spray if it gets real
Good
bad.
to know.
Yeah. Yep. So,
If I remember the story correctly, didn't they get a ticket afterwards from the police
Yes.
for like disorderly conduct or disrupting the peace or something like that?
yes, correct. They did. They were cited. We did still tow their vehicle. And it was crazy.
Well, there you go. You had it video proof, so I mean,
Yeah,
there you go.
It was all on video,
Yeah.
everything. And it's interesting because what people will do or what they're willing to do for 80 or a couple $100 is like mind blowing, Like,
Please
man.
tell.
Well, I mean,
What
like,
have you guys been offered?
so we've been offered everything.
I was gonna say, do you guys? I mean, you guys, I assume get. Well, I don't. Is it a bribe?
Proposition.
Yeah,
Solicited.
proposition, the bribe, solicitation.
Mary.
Yes.
Of course, Mary goes to the proposition.
Hey, I agree. Proposition is a correct word to
There-
use in this
there-
situation.
That does happen. Like, probably more than you would ever imagine. And
Yeah, I'm assuming. I'm assuming she's right. Propositioning probably does
yes,
happen.
It's amazing what you could get for $80.
Oh no, man! I'm from Washington D.C. I know what you can get for $80. Trust me.
So yes, that does happen. It does happen. That's like no questions asked.
All right. Well, so what's the craziest thing you've been offered?
Man, three drunk chicks at the same time.
You're
Like, no lie.
Wow.
Maybe not.
Oh, and my brother-in-law was with me.
So was this offer on the table for both of you or just you?
Well, I don't know. I assume it was both, but like, holy cow! Like, and me and him look at each other. We're like, did that just really happen? Like, whoa,
I just want my money.
whoa. I just want to go home.
I'll just take the money now.
Yeah,
Thanks.
please.
Come on.
Please, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, we've been offered that, drugs, stereos, TVs, cars, man, all the list goes on,
Oh,
you know.
jeez.
Anything to get out of being towed.
Yeah, totally.
Anything.
You're going to have to open
anything.
a pawn shop on the side so you can sell all this stuff there.
It's
Start
pretty,
accepting some of these.
it's pretty funny because my kids, they like right now we have over 400 vehicles in our impound lots, and they're all full of stuff. And when we get the titles on them, my kids go through them and they sell everything to their friends. You know, they found iPhones and computers and knives, guns, all kinds of stuff. And so they have like a little side gig going, selling
great.
all this inventory.
How long is it in impound before you get the title?
It depends on if it's registered in the state of Utah or if it's out of state. If it's out of state, it can take up to a year to get a title. In Utah, usually before COVID, it was like a 3 or 4 month turnaround. We could get a title. But now with COVID, it's like a year wait.
So if you get a title, that means you own the car now.
We own it, and then we sell them. So that's another part of the business that's actually exciting is we sell a ton of cars. So anybody that ever needs a cheap car, contact your local tower because we have a slew of them.
That's
Oh,
amazing.
And-
wow.
I
and
never
so-
even thought about that. But
neither.
I think I
Yes.
know where I'm going for my next car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every single one of my kids have driven vehicles out of the tow yard. My parents, my brother, my sisters.
And I assume that there's some
everybody.
nice ones that come in.
There are, yeah. There's some really nice ones that come in. Like, let's see, last year I got a 2016 Nissan Sentra, had 8,000 miles, and
Wow.
it was
Wow.
in perfect condition. Nice car. Obviously, we made some bank on that one.
That's good.
And so, but yeah, we, you know, most of it's garbage, but we do get nice vehicles every now and again. So,
Cool.
How does that work? Do you have to be licensed separately for the sales part of it, or is that part of your towing business that you are licensed to sell those cars through the state or whatever?
So as long as, and it's kind of I talked to the state about that because I was like, man, do I need to be a dealer to do this? And they said, as long as you towed the vehicle and that's how you acquired it, you can sell as many vehicles as you want. Now, but I can't go out and buy one and then resell it.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
Gotcha.
So as long as we towed them in our lot, we did the title work, we sell them, we could sell 1,000 cars or whatever. And
That's
it's
great.
no big thing. So, yep. So, yeah.
Do you have to like take inventory of everything that's in a car when you tow it, just so you know what's in there, so you're not holding, say, large amounts of guns or drugs or something on your tow lot, or do you just?
So on these, we call them private property impounds. Those are like vehicles that are parked in the wrong area or whatever that we tow. And on those, we don't, because 9.5 times out of 10, the doors are locked. And so we don't have a way to like get inside of them or whatever. And if they don't come and get them, you know, then after 60 or 90 days, we'll Slim Jim them open, you know, when we get the titles or whatever, and we go through them then. But when the average guy has his vehicle towed, there's no inventory of anything. There's no way for us to really know of an inventory of, you know, what the contents is, unless you can see it through the window. And if we can see, like, there's a big old satchel of weed on the back seat, then, which has happened, then we call the local police and say, hey,
See, and that's
Come
a
over
bigger
here.
loss for the person that was towed than just their car.
yeah, totally.
Do you ever have the police come looking for cars that
Like,
that they suspect, you know, have been used in a crime or something and left in a random place, and you've towed it? And
so we've had stuff like that happen where we tow a vehicle and then come to find out, like, hey, this vehicle was stolen, or, you know, it was involved in a crime or whatever. And at that point, you know, then the police come down and they do their investigation or whatever it is. And then sometimes they'll take the vehicle out of our lot and we're just like out. We don't get paid anything.
that's too bad.
But yeah, so that does happen. So from time to time, kind of crazy. we deal with everything. It's so. I never thought in a million years the things that we deal with would be things that we deal with in a towing business.
Yeah.
And
Sounds like an HOA manager.
Yeah. And so it's crazy.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the HOA Show. Scott, thank you so much for coming. We've had so much fun talking to you about towing, a hot button issue. In fact, there's so much stuff that we're going to split this into 2 episodes.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Anytime. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. If you've got any stories, anything you want to tell us, go ahead and contact the show. Kelsey, how can they get in touch with us?
Yeah, if you have any fun tow stories, we would love to sit and talk about them because they're always so funny to hear. You can email us at info@thehoashow.com or visit us online at thehoashow.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and you can find links to our socials on our site.
All right. Until next time, pray for no floods or fires, and we'll see you later.
We're not always pricks. It's amazing what you could get for $80. 3 drunk chicks at the same time.